Welcome to Rich Conversations. Today we'll chat with Nick McMillan. We met up at Uncle Mike's Place, a Filipino restaurant near Grand and Ashland. We had breakfast there and it was delicious. We sat in the back room when we recorded this, so you can definitely get a vibe of the place with all the clanking plates and glasses. And Nick brings a lot of energy and entertainment, but I especially appreciate his thoughtfulness. You can follow him at It's Nick McMillan. All right. So we have Nick here.
Hello.
Nick, how long have you lived in Chicago?
Well, my whole life. It's been, I guess technically, 20. I'm 30 now. So I say technically 12 years. I'm from Evanston, from South Evanston. So, I feel like I've always very much identified with being from Chicago, even though Evanston's technically a different place, but there's public transportation, there's right down the street, it's like all the buses run by you, and it had all the charm to me of like growing up with corner stores and all that. So I would say I'm a lifer, man. But otherwise, 12 years within the city limits. Went to DePaul, that's where we met. So that was my first time living down, further south. So that was 2008, man.
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Crazy, yeah, 2008. But yeah, man, my family's actually been here for a long time, generations. It's pretty cool. So both of my family, on my mom's side, she's first generation, I guess. But my dad's side, it's 3 or 4 generations of Chicagoans, railroaders, like doctors and stuff, like
Holy
Hyde
cow.
Park, toast of Hyde Park, man. Like
Whoa.
My grandmother grew up like down the street from Louis Farrakhan. So there's a lot of history.
A lot of Chicago.
Yeah,
through
definitely.
the blood.
A rich history. If you.
Yes, indeed. So what neighborhood are you in now?
Now I'm in. Honestly, it's pretty much like West Loop. I feel like it's kind of no man's land in terms of the names, because it's like Noble Square, West Loop. It used to be called The Patch. I learned this from somebody.
What?
I learned this through.
I feel like this is more like Westtown, right? Is that another
I would
ambiguous
consider
name,
Westtown. Westtown is a new invention. So
by
personally,
real estate people?
Yes, exactly. By real estate people to market this part of to market this neighborhood and sell it. But technically I still kind of consider Westtown more like Chicago Avenue up to Ashland, and then maybe a little past Ashland going east. But like I live down there like Racine and Grand, so I think it's technically kind of outside of the Westtown map. Maybe it is a part of it, but to me it's the old Italian part of town. That's what I've always identified. Grand Avenue. I live by D'Amato's Bakery and Bari Foods, and this little spot, Grand and Ogden, apparently used to be called The Patch. And honestly, there is history up and down this whole fucking street. You talk to Uncle Mike himself, he may tell you a couple stories, is all I'm saying. I'm not going to say too much, but like serious history of organized crime in this part of town. Actually, really? Uncle Mike told me a story. This actually happened.
We're at Uncle Mike's right now.
Yeah,
it's a Filipino restaurant, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We just had an awesome breakfast. It's fantastic.
And Uncle Mike is a lifer, man. He's had this spot since 1989 right here. And he told me that in like 1994 or something, when they were really coming down on the FBI was coming down on the mafia in all across the country. And they were searching for, I can't remember his name, but one of the kind of big top mob bosses in Chicago. And they came in here one day thinking that they were like hiding him or some shit, or like thinking that they were, so the FBI like came in here and was like, where's the fucking guy? It's just crazy, man. Like a lot of history on these streets. So I love, that's the part, I think that was part of one of the questions you had too. It's one of the things I do love about my neighborhood.
Yeah.
is all the history that you're walking by. Like, it hasn't been fully demolished yet.
How long have you been in this area?
Only a few years. Well, yeah, I lived down the block from here.
Okay.
I would say more traditionally West Town.
Okay, yes.
Down here on Paulina.
Fancy name.
Yeah, right. That was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then I moved down on Racine and Grand over there about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, a few years.
You were in Pilsen for a little bit too. How long were you there?
I was in Pilsen for about 3 years.
Okay.
Like 2011 to 2014 or so, maybe like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Then I moved up to North Center, which is like
Irving
and Western. Yeah.
We were like kind of neighbors.
Oh yeah, right. For a little bit when
you
I
were
was
in
at
the firehouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Legendary spot.
Yes, it is.
I've been all over the city, man.
Yeah.
I've been all over the city. I guess really not actually. Relatively, the city's actually so big, man. It's like, it's crazy. I'll say like, yeah, I've lived all around the city, and then I really think about it, I'm like, I've not even touched. I've lived in like a little fraction of the city,
Yeah.
like.
So if you have an open Saturday, how would you choose to spend it?
Yes. If I have an open Saturday, how would I choose to spend it? It definitely depends on what time of year. But, for me, a lot of my Saturdays involve waking up, drinking some coffee at a nice, decent hour, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Getting really coffeeed up. And I usually go and play some music. I got a practice space right over here, so
cool.
I'll walk over there and play some music. But man, if it's nice out, I usually like to. It's kind of saying a lot because I don't actually do it all the time, but I really try and take like a little walk or something. Kind of like just wake up and at least take a little walk around the block or something, just to kind of be outside, get my day aligned or whatever, kind of get some equilibrium before I start putting substances in my body, coffees and everything, man. There's drinks and cigarettes and whatever the hell it might be. So it's like every day I kind of wake up, try and get a little clear moment, especially Saturdays.
Yeah.
They're nice.
So what are the evenings like on an open Saturday?
You might catch me hanging out by myself in my house. Do that a lot. But catching music, man. I'll be going out just to catch music. If it's nice out, I'll just hop on my bike and just go ride somewhere. And Saturday night, I don't know, man. I'm not like much of a goer outer. So it's like I'm just thinking of different bars that have good music. The Hideout, Danny's, great place to go dancing.
Yeah.
I'll go dancing if I'm feeling good. That's my Saturday night for sure.
Nice.
If I'm feeling good, I'm going to go get sweaty somewhere. But I'm always on the lookout for new dancing spots. Danny's kind of like my only one, and I've exhausted it almost at this point. So,
what are some other dancing spots?
I honestly don't know. There used to be one called Neo, one called Crocodile.
Oh, I remember Crocodile.
Yeah, Crocodile, man, on Milwaukee there. Dude, they had a killer, like, couple nights of dancing in the basement, and they would have free pizza on like Mondays or Tuesdays. It was crazy, man. But yeah, those places are really good. And to be honest, I'm always looking for better places to dance. Like I as a resident and a long time like dancer in this city, I'm ashamed for not knowing more about where to catch a good Windy City Soul Summit. That's always a good ass dance party, but it's like they only happen once every few months or something. Like it's kind of like a pop up type of thing.
Yeah, Another person talked about Windy City Soul Club.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah. That is a staple too, man. Hideout has a really good dance floor, but they don't have any. I don't know the consistent days that they're like. Because something about a dance party, it's best when it's packed. If it's not packed, it's a little harder to like go and just lose yourself on the floor.
when you're all alone.
Yeah, and you're just like, ooh, feeling it. But Hideout sometimes, they have an amazing dance floor. really great disco ball, also beauty bar, but I don't know always when to catch it for it to like be full and popping, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's probably my Saturday night. I feel like I go out more on weekdays than Saturday nights, to be honest. So it's like,
really?
That's why I was like, yeah, Saturday night you might catch me inside, reading a book, curling up.
What goes on during the weekdays? Well, you're out, you're playing music and stuff.
Yeah, playing music. Like, there's a lot of free things, like just random bars. You know, a live one they've been doing that forever, man. Yeah. A live one, like $2 or $3 pints. Or $4 pints on like Tuesdays or Thursdays. Okay. Whistler has really good like jazz during the week. You know, just kind of random places where my friends or people I know will be playing. You know, I try and go and catch them, do that. Or I'm trying to think. It's like funny when I actually think about like what do I do? I'm like, not much, man. It's mostly focused just around music. Me playing music or going to see it or dancing to it. Yeah. It's kind of what gets me out.
So when you first think of Chicago,
yes,
what colors do you imagine first?
Oh yeah, I like this question. You know, immediately two colors that came into my head. The first one, without a doubt, is the glow, the orange glow, the nighttime.
Really?
Like that. It is like bona fide, man. If I'm ever gone for a long period of time, I come back and see that, and I'm like, it's just this like comfortable filter. Not that I like it, not that I like the color necessarily, but it's so like signature to me. And then the other thing the other color was kind of like slate blue of like a cold, terrible morning. You know, when you have to wake up and it's like, oh, so cold out, and you don't want to be outside, and it's like barren, and all the concrete in the sky somehow have become the same color. That's like, wow. It's like this blue-gray thing. Yeah. Chicago morning has always been a thing for me. Like,
do you ever get it where you look out your window, and this is like January, February, and it's so cold and it's so intimidating, just like looking out the window at that gray, bluish.
So intense.
Yeah.
You can feel the cold radiating off the window.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's really intense, man. It's like, it's harsh. It's really harsh. But that color, it's the same feeling to me. That color and that feeling you're saying, where you're looking out the window like, it's like scary.
It requires a lot of like mental and physical toughness to just like go out and confront it.
Yeah, and to be like, I'm good. It does. It's scary because for me, I think about it a lot, especially at nighttime, when the weather starts to drop, the temperature starts to drop, it's all dark. It's like, man, I would die out here, dude. Like, or like come close to it, you know, in the wintertime. Like, and it just makes you think about just how bleak it is out here, man. Just flip a switch, you don't have somewhere to sleep. Like, man, you got to scramble, dude. And that's what I think about in those mornings. I look out the window like, no one should have to go outside right now. Like, look at this, it's out here to get us, you know? Like, it's crazy.
What's your proudest moment as a Chicagoan?
Oh yeah, this was a thinker. What was my answer? My proudest moment as a Chicagoan.
You've been here quite a long time, so it's...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts that have come across my... I mean, it's funny because the first one, like, that came to my head again, just right here, but is when Obama won.
Okay.
Like, being in Grant Park, it was cool. There's definitely this element that was really cool, that he was, like, there. You know, he was in Chicago. He was, like, kind of like our politician or whatever.
Were you at the rally or the event?
Yeah, I went to Grant Park. Okay. Yeah, like right when I was down there. I remember he won. I was in a Harold's Chicken Shack with my friend Mike, and we're sitting there waiting for our food on Balboa and State, and we're sitting there waiting. You know, food takes like 25 minutes. It's just super quiet in the place. Somebody literally pops their head in, like, Obama just won. Somebody sitting at the booth, she's like, I'm not going to believe it. I don't believe it until, like, it's all the projections, you know, I'm not going to believe it till, like, it comes back.
Okay.
And everyone kind of sat there and, like, acknowledged that for a moment. Like, yeah. And then our food came up like at that moment, and then I swear to God, everyone's just like, yeah! People are screaming. People start running out the door, running to Grant Park, like sprinting down the street. People are just, you look down the street and you see other people on the other streets just running towards Grant Park. And oh my God, I'm getting like chills actually just thinking about it. It's pretty crazy. I think I'm way more jaded about it all now. So it's less of a, that's why I'm like, I don't really feel so proud in so many ways, but in that moment I felt so proud, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think that for me, like, I get these moments of being proud, like, just, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I just catch a view or something, or I'll just be having a personal moment, and I'm like, this is my home. A lot of times I have a relationship with the lake, because, like, Chicago, the whole Evanston, Chicago thing was always just kind of interesting because, you know, it really brings up the idea of borders. And I just grew up just a few blocks from, like, the Chicago border. But it was such a thing. You'd grow up, people like, oh, you're not from Chicago or something, like, you're from Evanston. And it would be, like, on my back, like it was so weird. But I started to have this realization where I'm like, nah, you know what? I don't even care what people say because this is the land that I'm from. Like, I'm from next to this lake. I'm from this climate. Like, I'm from this smell, you know? And I'll have those moments. I'll be sitting there looking at the lake or looking at the city like, man, I'm really, like, this is my land. Like, yeah. And I find pride in that, like, in knowing that, like, that I have some sort of, like, stewardship. You know, I have some sort of responsibility towards this place. Like, just because it's the air that I've always breathed type of thing. So I feel like that's my proud moment is just kind of like being like, yeah, I'm part of this, you know.
That's awesome.
And not feeling like I want to leave type of shit, you know, which I felt a lot. Had a lot of moments like I don't want to be here anymore. And
I've felt the same way.
You know, it's hard, man. It can be so hard. The city grind just like wears on you. And you're like, you start to feeling all local and Midwest. I'm like, I haven't even seen them. I'm just from the Midwest, man. I need to go get some sun or something, or go see some other shit. You know, like, and but yeah, I feel very proud to just be a part of this fabric.
If someone were to visit you from out of town, what restaurant would you take them to?
Hey, man, we might be sitting in it, dude. Like,
nice.
This is definitely one of them. Uncle Mike's.
I'm so proud. Look at this. I get to experience
this. Dude, I mean, this is you've seen every time people come by, I'm like, hey. Like, I love everybody that works here. They give you all this extra food every time. Yeah. This, make sure you eat, make sure you get full. Another place I would go is D'Amato's, right down the street from me, or across the street from me, down the street from here. Just staple Chicago bakery, Italian bakery. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of depends on where I'm at, man. I feel like I got little secret locations in all the neighborhoods I know, you know?
Yeah.
So just kind of like, I guess where it is, you know? But
Uncle Mike's place.
Uncle Mike's place.
Right
Uncle
here.
Mike's place and D'Amato's Bakery. Let's go with that. That's my two answers. Yeah.
I like those. Mm-hmm. What's your hidden gem in the city?
I would say my hidden gem is there's gonna be two. Okay, one is Labag Woods, which is like up.
What is it?
Labag Woods. It's up north. Okay. I'll say it again because the things were clanking. Labag Woods. Labag? I don't know exactly. Labag. But that's up north at like Foster. Like kind of Foster. It's actually part of the city gets bordered up in Saguenash, like northwest side of the city. But it's a really big forest preserve up on the northwest side. It's just cool. You can kind of get in there and like, you never get away from hearing the cars and the highway, but it's like you can definitely get all the way in, and you're like surrounded by trees, and you're kind of in the forest. And my second one would be the bridge over the river downtown, but under on the second level on the lower Wacker. There's like, you can just like walk.
You mean, so on Wacker or like, oh, you're saying.
It's on, I think it's the bridge, it's the Lakeshore Bridge, I think.
Oh.
And there's an under
Yeah.
That it's kind of like the beginning of Lower Wacker.
Yeah.
It's like really Gotham City like, but it's right there by Navy Pier. Right there at Navy Pier, you can go over on the bottom level.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And it's just so cool, man. It's like true Gotham City, man. And like, talk about that orange light, and that's always on, 100% of the time. No matter what time of day you go under on Lower Wacker, that orange light is on, and it's like, whoa, man. Like, it just reminds me of growing up, because I just had a lot of experiences down there at Navy Pier, and with that thing, that's my second spot.
So that's where like when I'm riding my bike down the lake path, you have to like
go around things,
go around on that bridge, and then go back down.
They're like, hold on, we didn't finish the whole lake part. You got to still hit the like crusty.
Yeah.
You
have to carry your bike up the stairs.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to make it around Navy Pier.
Like,
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's a good spot, though.
What sound do you most affiliate with Chicago?
Man, gotta be the train. Just being under the train, you hear that rattle coming, you're just like, and you're actually under it. Like, yeah, there's no other answer for that for me. Couldn't even imagine. Oh, you're the best. See, this is the proof. That's why Uncle Mike's place is the greatest in Chicago. Okay, thank you. What is this? The soup? Yes. A little luau for the road. Yeah, baby. Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't have to be. You're gonna stuff that all in there. It's gonna be all going to the same place. I mean, come on. Look at this.
It's pretty great.
Let's get some of this. Feel the heftiness of this for the people out, the listeners.
So I'm eager to hear your next answer for this question.
Okay.
What music has influenced you most during your time in the city?
I mean, that honestly, it's like such a beautiful answer. I'm just like, it makes me so happy to think about, because it's definitely all of the years of music history in this city. You know, it's like I think through my family, I think I've just always had a passion for kind of music and history, like kind of separate.
Okay.
And so I feel like for me in my lifetime, like history and music has always been like kind of the most fascinating like cornerstone of where my mind can go. And Chicago has such a rich, no pun intended, history of music, man. So like my biggest influences of music in my time here are definitely the electric blues and that music from like the 50s and the 60s, Aretha and Muddy Waters and Sam Cooke. You know, it's not all like the same genre necessarily, but a very similar kind of pot, I feel like, that they were all coming from.
Okay.
You know, kind of redefining this like bluesy church soul sound that was coming from the South and from the American ghettos in 50s and 60s in Chicago. Man, they started to really electrify that and make it just kind of sound amazing. So that's a big one. I'm super into just the singers, especially Sam Cooke, Donny Hathaway, Aretha Franklin, like, and then the other big answer is juke music. I mean, obviously Kanye. I cannot say this whole thing without giving some love to Kanye in the 2000s. Like growing up here, that was just huge. But man, juke music, dude, footwork. That like blew my mind. I remember the first time, 7th grade, going to they were called Hecky parties. And
Hecky parties?
Yeah, Hecky parties, because there's this barbecue place in Evanston called Hecky's Barbecue, and Hecky is the guy, the owner, but his 2 kids, I went to school with them, and so they would throw these parties. They would like have parties for like, you know, 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders, like, you know, we were just kids. There wasn't like drinking and crazy stuff, but it was like just these intense dance parties, and it was juke music. So it's like, you know, that super high tempo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah. And that just blew my mind. I was just in love with that, like, ever since those moments. So, like, all that, man. Juke, house music is huge.
Yeah.
Twista, GLC, all that, like, late 90s hip-hop, too, really influenced, you know, so many. I mean, I could go on about this forever, but I'll say the short answer is the electric blues and juke music. Special mention to Kanye West.
What's a common scene you see in your daily interaction with the city?
Okay. The common scene I see a lot is a lot of peer-to-peer support. I guess I don't say like every day if I don't go outside of my house necessarily, but, you know, it's like, and I guess this will kind of piggyback off the last question too a little bit, because, like, one thing that has influenced me so hard just in my life, not just musically and like with that type of focus, but also just as a human being, you know, I feel like the community here is so supportive, man, the peer-to-peer community, and at least coming from the creative community, just actors, musicians, writers, people doing all types of stuff. You know, what we're doing here, it's like, I just find in Chicago there's just a lot of love, man, for the other people at your same level who are grinding it out and really trying to put their best foot forward. I just feel like I get a lot of respect and a lot of support from the people around me, so it always inspires me to really try and give that back, you know. And
right.
So it has to do with, why do I go out during the week and go see shows that my friends are in? It's like, that's what brings me out, because that's where I feel so much love, you know.
Yeah.
And like, what's the music that inspires me? You know, it's like the music that comes out of the city. So yeah, all those things that I said there, but ultimately it's like the last 10 years of music, man. The people, it's like some of the best music I ever heard in my life, man. And it's like all just, not always people I know, but it's like, man, just people in Chicago just being peer to peer, being like, whatever, man, like, I got a show, come out. You want to be on the list? I got you, you know? And it's like, it's really cool. So I feel like there's just a lot of, I personally feel like there's a lot of support here, specifically from peer-to-peer. I don't think there's a lot of infrastructure necessarily for the arts, which I think is unfortunate because it's so ripe for it. But I think that kind of regardless of that, people, you know, we snatch it up, you know, and do the best we can to kind of build that for each other. So, yeah, man, it's like this kind of stuff. Like, I love seeing that you're like, I'm like, damn, Rick's out here doing a podcast, or Rick's out here reading the book every week, you know,
yeah.
Like little things like that where, I don't know, I feel like at least within my community, I feel like we love that. We're like, dude, go do your thing, please, like, and call me up when you need something, you know, like, so, you know, I would say that's probably the thing that I do consistently see the most. That's not like, I don't know, people walking across the street, you know, right. I see that every day. People ignoring each other, you know, there's a lot of that. It's like the city, man. I always wish people kind of waved at you a little more, you know, had a little more like, hey, what's up, you know. But I try and create that where I go, you know, with my local places. Like here, you know, I know everybody, half the people that work here, because I come here a lot, or at D'Amato's or Bari, you know, they know my name and I know their name over there, because it's like, I don't just go there and go in and out. I'm like, hey, what's up? You're just gonna ask them how they're doing. You've been here every day, all day. Like, how are you doing? How's work? You know, they're like, ah.
If you were given secret information that Chicago would be destroyed in 1 week, what's one quality you would choose to keep to rebuild the city?
What is one quality I'd choose to keep? I don't know. It's hard to say, because I feel like it's easy to generalize, man. It's easy to generalize a whole place. And it's hard for me to say outside of my community, like, if things are necessarily the way that I see them, you know? Like, because people are going through the worst things you can imagine in this same city, man, that people are going through, you know, the best things you can imagine. And, like, that can be hard for me to come to grips with sometimes, you know, just like how unequal this city can be in particular. but so I think that if there's something that I would want to keep, it would be that, just kind of what we were just talking about, you know, that kind of that. And again, it's I can't step away from the generalization that I can only make, or me just seeing from my perspective. But I go to other places, you know, New York or LA or New Orleans, you know, and they all have different vibes, you know. And one thing about Chicago I do consistently find is, like, within my peer group, within my like kind of generation, I mean, people are really on that peer-to-peer support, man. They're really out here like, yo, what are you doing? Let me contribute whatever I can. Is it a $10 ticket? Is it just like me liking your posts on Instagram? Like, you know, and I really find that love, man. People are, I find that maybe it's just the young people or whatever. People just want to build, man. They want to be vulnerable. They want to like work on stuff, you know, rather than be like the best, like let me just be the best and like be so good at something, yeah. or like be really competitive and try and just have mine. I find Chicago to be a very collaborative and supportive environment, and you know, if that's just a small thing that I see in my community, like I would hope that that's something we could hold on to and maybe, you know, just kind of see it everywhere, you know, because I think that's the only hope we got, man, for the future, is like peer-to-peer, like local collaboration, working with who you know and what you got, and just trying to support your community, you know. So I think it's scary and interesting, because I think that question right there is like, you know, it's something to really think about, because whether or not Chicago itself gets, you know, destroyed or whatever in some short amount of time, it's like with the next century we're looking at, man, like there's gonna be so much calamity, so much change. I think we are gonna have to get really creative and start to be like, okay, what do we want to hold on to from this, and what do we need to let go of? Because it's not working, you know. And you know, there's been a lot of thoughts about just people moving to Chicago with climate change and with the coasts and the sea level rise. I'm like, we may be having to make some choices around here, man. I mean, the center of the country type of thing. But anyways, I can ramble on about anything for a long time, Rich. So
I like that. I like listening to
it. I'm trying to like wrangle this in.
What's one small thing you would do to improve your neighborhood or the city as a whole?
Free public transportation. I mean, I guess it's probably a fairly big thing, actually. I guess if you really think about what it would take, but you know, it felt small in the sense of like it's $2. You know, it's $2.50. Like maybe $5 if you're going there and back. But I think that like that scooter, the little scooter experiment they did. Yeah. You know, what I loved about it was that in my neighborhood, I was seeing faces of people that you don't see in my neighborhood. Like, you know, it's kids. It's people from, like, a few miles down the street, you know? Because, like, you get one of these scooters, you can just go ride it somewhere. And it's cheap. So like, we spend $3 and you can go so far. So I haven't used
those. Did you use those?
I rode one.
Okay.
I rode one, and then my roommate bought one, so I've rode another one, more than that. But I never personally downloaded the app and like put my card through it, just because, you know, I'm kind of a like snotty person sometimes, and I'm just like, you know, my neighborhood, and it's just, my neighborhood was like the epicenter. It's like West Loop pretty much, so it's like everywhere you just see like Google kids flying around on these things. I just didn't want to be a part of it. I'm like, I will not participate. But real talk though, it's like they were not super expensive, and they're fast and like accessible, and that's what I love about it. It's like you can just, I mean, it's not awesome that you need a card, because they make it's like if you don't have a bank account, you can't get on one. But like, to me, going back to the question and the whole public transportation thing, like, I think that it's essential for any commercial society, you know, a place with the commerce of ideas and of people. Like, you need to have all people represented.
All hands on deck.
All hands on deck. You need to have all bodies represented, and you need to have all thoughts represented. And like, when somebody literally just can't get downtown because it costs too much, or you don't have a car, or it's too cold, or whatever the hell, like, and then that consistently happens over time, you start to think,
it's a really great way to frame it,
dude. I mean, and you start to think this has to be on purpose or something. It's like how could something that, I mean, you look at the Red Line. Every stop on the Red Line going south used to be a main street. That used to be a Six Corners. You know, like this city was bustling, and you could have access. And think of how many more people and more space now there is since 100 years ago, and not even 80 years ago when that L got constructed. It's like, so it just feels to me very antiquated. And just like with the library, they just eliminated fees for all library books. They had like a 480% increase of book returns the week after, you know, and so many more people are coming back to the library to read. And it's like, it seems to me so obvious. It's like, we want people to be participating. We want our residents to be engaging with the civics of downtown. Like, they need to be able to get there.
Yeah.
It's like as simple as that. And it's such a vast city that I just think that public transportation here is kind of a joke, man. Like, relative to other places, it's great, you know, but relative to New York, it's like, it's pretty like hard to get around. And then you add the cost on that, and it makes it even worse. So, not to say there's any easy way to get to that place, but I think that would be really cool, and I think it would do a lot for our city, and especially just for like the kids, man, like feeling like they're a part of it.
When people learn you're from Chicago, how do they respond, and what's your reaction?
That's funny because it's kind of two answers. In Europe, I've only been to Europe outside of America, and I'm Italian, so I've been to Italy a couple times and visited my family out there, and it's like pretty consistent, man. People say Chicago, and they say Al Capone, and they start hitting you with the machine gun, and I'm like, damn. Like, at first I was like, oh yeah, it's funny, but then over time I'm like, that's really all these people associate with Chicago is organized crime. Wow. and Italian mafia and guns. And I find that a lot, man. When I went down to New Orleans, you know, I lived down there for a couple years, and it's like people usually think of violence. Mm-hmm. And it's really, I don't know, not even funny or is whatever for me. It's like, you know, my experience of that is the most segregated city in the country, you know, behind Boston. It's like, and that's my experience. It's like, it's actually the opposite. I'm like, no, I come from the part of Chicago, there's no fucking bullets flying. It's like, and that always ends up being the way that my response comes out. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like, people associate Chicago with the violence, but then the only thing I can say is like, it's like, no, it's not the whole city, and there's a reason for that, and it's a whole nother conversation, and it's like, that's a whole nother crazy thing. So I would say that's the first thing. Or like, nowadays music is pretty popular from here, so I think a lot of people will be like, oh man, I love the music coming out of Chicago. But pretty much without a doubt, people are about the Chirac like image, you know.
When you feel overwhelmed or need a mental escape, but you can't leave the city, where do you go to clear your mind?
I go to the lake. Anywhere on the lake, if I have to. Especially wintertime, it's going to be like chill because there's going to be nobody there. But if it's summertime and it's packed, I'm going to go to, and this is a little deep cut, you know, so you're like, this is just.
Here we are.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the 12th Street Beach, which is like, it's like Meg's Field. You know, now it's the First Midwest Amphitheater, like or something.
Northerly Island?
Yeah, Northerly Island. Okay. That's what I was looking for, yeah. So there's a beach on Northerly Island. So you basically would go down Roosevelt, but you kind of got to go down. It's actually like 18th Street Beach. I'm sorry. I think it's called 12th Street Beach, but the access is through 18th Street.
Okay.
And it's a pretty deserted beach all the time, man. It's really cool. It's like, so even in the summertime, there's people there, but relatively it's like, and it's cool because it's connected to Northern Ireland. So there's a prairie preserve along the lake in different spots. There's a lot of cool prairie preserves I'm sure you've seen. And I think they started those about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. So they're starting to grow in. Like, I remember 10 years ago, you could go to some of those places and you're like, prairie preserve, like, it's just like these short grasses. It looks like this planted like some garden, but it was because they just started it. And then I just had realized that, I think this year, because I was riding my bike across like all the way up and down the lake, and I'm looking at some of these spots like, whoa, this looks really cool. I'm like, oh, it makes sense. Once you plant it, you need decades for it to really grow in and be like lush in the way that it was. And so, yeah, that's definitely my spot. There's some spots on the lakefront where you can kind of catch some covered area with trees and whatnot, and just get some good quiet time with the water.
What's something you're curious about recently?
That's a hard question, man. And I'm like, it's hard. I'm trying to like be a positive person here because, man, I gotta be honest though, man. I'm curious about our future, dude.
Future as in Chicago or the U.S. or the world, or what do you think?
I mean, definitely all of those things. Yeah. They're all inclusive, just considering Chicago being my home. But I'm curious about how are we going to pivot from the world we've created for ourselves. How are we going to start to choose our future over our conveniences? Like, and I'm one to, I don't know what my answer is. It's hard. It's impossible pretty much to like, I mean, I have to get up to Skokie every day for work. I'm like, I wish I could stop driving my car. But then when it's 13 degrees outside and I want to go somewhere, I'm like, I pay for insurance on this thing. Like, I may as well use the damn car. Like, this is why I got it. But we're just so deeply embedded into our ways. And, the last thing, and I truly believe this in my heart, that the last thing I'm doing is like judging anybody for their complicity in the system. From wherever you're coming from, hinterland, hitherland, like, but we're all contributing. And I think that honestly, I think one of my biggest goals in life is trying to figure out how I can continue to develop the tools to, I think, learn how to be a mitigator, and to mediate between the vast differences of opinions in our country. I mean, our country's too big as far as I'm concerned. Like, how could you possibly have any semblance of control or relative opinions? It's like when people are living in entirely different climate, entirely different geopolitical atmosphere, like all these things, and so I'm legitimately curious because I'm like, I don't know, and I consider myself to be, like somebody who thinks about it a lot, and I'm like, I don't know all the other people that, I'm sure there's just minds that are so much more focused and advanced than mine, and that are really doing hard nose down research or, effort to try and figure out solutions. But I feel like that's what makes it so difficult. It's like, you could focus your energy in any, I could spend my whole lifetime trying to figure out solar energy, or figure out how to make solar energy more accessible. But what's that going to do for our soil contamination? What's that going to do for like poverty in the majority of the city? Like, it's not going to affect their lives at all. And right. So then I'm sitting here like, well, I need to focus on that. And so it's like, it's impossible to I literally wake up every day like, how do I put my best foot forward? And for me, it's like music and talking and a lot of these things, but a lot of times that feels kind of falling short as well. So, like really to I guess be as verbose as possible about it. It's like, I'm curious about like, what are we gonna do, man? What am I gonna do? How do I contribute?
What can you do? It's
what can I do? That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
It's like, I'm curious about what I can do for the future.
Yeah.
To be a part of it, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Within the past 5 years of living here, what personal realization has improved your outlook on life the most?
That it's just me in the end. Like, I think I've gone all the way there and back, thinking about like love and like positivity and like having a good mindset and like all these things. And not just to say that that's bad by any means, but it's like in the end, man, like you can lean on people, you can trust people, but they can ditch you. People will just walk out and just leave you high and dry, man. And like I've really just found, whether it's with creative work or whether it's with like employment, like career type work, like me trying to like better myself and like make money and like establish myself and create a foundation. I'm like, man, I got to do it myself. It's like I really got to do this myself if I want it to look how I want it to look. Because I feel like I ended up leaning on too many people with whether it's emotions or professional stuff, and I come to the final product or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to stand behind this. Like, what happened? Why did this go wrong? And then for me personally, I just realized there's been a lot of lazy moments, man, where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with having this conversation. I don't want to like face this up, be real about it. Like, tell this person how I really feel. Rather I'll just not say anything and just let it happen. And then I look at it and I'm like, I don't even want to show this to somebody, or I don't want to, whatever, stand behind it. Or like, how did I get here? In like a relationship, I'll look up and be like, feel stupid. Be like, what was I doing? Like, I outsourced all of my energy into somebody else. I didn't like give it to myself. And so that's been my biggest work recently in the last 5 years, really. Last 3.5 years since I moved back from New Orleans. Like, that was my big realization. I'm like, damn, all I got is me. I think for the first half of my 20s, I was just so excited about life, man. Yeah. It was like, I've had a lot of opportunities, and so I was just very pumped. And a lot of things have happened, loss of innocence in so many ways. And come back to Chicago, and I'm like, it was hard to not feel like I failed, And so that's where I'm like judging myself, and I'm like, you know what? Nah, man, because it's just me. It's just me here. Like, if I already think I failed, what's the next 40 years? Like, so what actually fails? Like my expectations of other people, my expectations of like my jobs and all these things. Yeah. So it's been really good, man. I started an LLC. I started catering. I started this landscaping thing. Like, I just started doing new things, challenging myself in different ways, because I think I finally recognized that was like what I needed. Yeah. So, yeah, that's been a really big one for me. It was kind of like my growing up moment.
Wow.
Like, all right, Nick, you're not just, you can't lean on everybody else, man.
So the last question I have for you.
Hit it with me, Rich. Give it to me.
What's something you dream of doing within the next 5 years? Or in the future?
Man, I got a lot of dreams, my friend. I got a lot of big dreams. But the one I'll tell you, world tour, baby.
World tour?
Swear on my life, man. That is the number one. And it doesn't have to be like some grand, we think world tour. It's like, Led Zeppelin world tour or something.
Yeah, right?
Like, I'm just like, I want to go somewhere outside of the country with my music. It can even be a one-off thing, man. Like, I just want that to happen. It's a part of, it's hard to explain why, but it's always been a part of my dream, man, to be able to take the music that comes from my heart, comes from the land where I'm from. We incubated this, we practiced it, we worked on it in Chicago with the musicians here, and I just have this dream of being able to go somewhere else in the world and play for them and be like, this is what our music sounds like, and share that. And Maybe it's just because that's been such a profound effect in my life, is seeing music of the world, man. And I'm like, wow, this is what sound is like to people in Mali. You know, this is what sound is like to people in India or in, Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
And it's like the instruments are different, the harmonics are different, the rhythmic choices are different, and it's always made me super excited about kind of representing that for where I'm from. So it's a big goal for me, man. I'm saying it here right now on Rich Conversations. I really want it to happen. Please. I'm trying so hard. So
thanks for sharing all this.
Man.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, dude. I'm honored. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Rich Conversations. Again, you can follow Nick at It's Nick McMillan. Happy holidays and get excited for a brand new year.